Polite Inquiries, England, India, Lords, Day 5.
Perfectly timed. Chet as well.
I'm going on the revs on that ball to Ollie Robinson. Speaking of Ollie, Oliver Jones, where does England's bowling to Shami and Bumrah rank among their worst passages of play? Right, the good stuff first up. Go for it.
Well, I think there's a lot of competition for that accolade. And they bowled too short. They seemed more intent on settling scores. But also, those two batted pretty well. So let's give them some credit.
What I don't get is how no one was able to arrest this passage of play where you could see the game's just going.
When people think of Bumrah bowling to Anderson, they probably remember the bouncers. But what about the Yorkers? The short ball stopped being a shock, didn't it? I mean, it was just another short ball.
Shrideep Panda. Is Bumrah a reincarnation of Sachin's straight drive and Dravid's front foot defence? It's amazing how a little bit of chirping just seems to bring out the best of your technique.
No, but he's a really good competitive cricketer.
Graham Langford, what's he doing on the questions list? This is, of course, one of our Polite Inquiries producers, and he was on the day George and me answered this question on India's tail. Now he's saying he thought this was the worst in Test history. That was a question we answered, didn't we?
We've been trolled by our own producer.
Yeah, it's come to that.
I think it says a bit about them, and it also says a bit about England's bowling, that they thrashed them to all parts.
Will Cooling, just putting it out there, but maybe it wouldn't have been the worst thing if Dom Sibley had blocked and leaved for 207 balls.
Yes, there is still a place for blocking the hell out of it in Test cricket. And Pujara's innings, imperfect though it was, has turned out to be very, very important. So he could be looking around now with a big fat cigar in the dressing room saying, see, I could have gone on for another 20 minutes. I'm not quite sure who they're going to bring in who's going to do a huge amount better. That's a worry. Reminded of the Bob Dylan line, I had to rearrange their faces and give them all another name. Bob Dylan wasn't talking about England's top order, I should say. He very rarely does, but he could have been.
Mike, if you remove Root, is this the worst batting lineup in international cricket? Ooh.
Well, I think the Serbian middle order is known for being a bit flaky. You know, there are probably Serbian batters watching this now going, Molim! Whatever. I think it's rubbish.
Samuel, why are people like KP and Vaughan calling for a reform for the Test team, and yet they insist that most players be allowed to go to the IPL, for example?
Well, I think that's a really good question. And I actually think that those people saying that it's absolutely fine for players to go and play the IPL during the English season, and that they wanted a standalone new identity white ball competition in the middle of the English season. They're responsible. They're responsible for this. I categorically believe that. They are more responsible than Sam Curran and Dom Sibley. And it will keep happening until people realise that you have to give equal importance to red ball first-class cricket.
Sudarshanan, at what point would 2 wickets in 2 balls start being called Siraj?
I like that. Now, you've just coined it. I like it. Let's do it.
Do you know that Sambit often refers to Siraj as Shiraz, as in the wine?
Famous Indian brand of wine is?
Sula.
Sula. I wanted to say sewer, but I thought no one's calling a wine sewer. Well, that'd be a terrible name, wouldn't it?
Daniel Gidney. Hi, George. With only 8 days of cricket for players not involved in the 100 between July 18th and August 30th, and England's top 3 struggles, should red ball cricket be played under the 100 next year? Perhaps 3 under-23 rounds, so level playing field for all. You know Daniel, don't you?
I do, and I think he's terrific. I think he's a good man, and he's the chief executive of Lancashire. And I couldn't disagree with him more. What he's just described there, under-23 cricket played at the same time as everything else, that's second 11 cricket. That's not going to prepare people to face Siraj and Mitchell Stark and all these other great bowlers that we see around the world. No, you've got to prioritise it a little bit more sensibly, and I'm afraid the 100, which Daniel supports, is a key part of the problem.
And speaking of the 100, Carla at Ducky Momo 65. I love Ducky Momo 65. And some people prefer the 100 to this.
You can enjoy them both. Of course you can. They're all cricket. If I wasn't doing this show right now, I'd be watching the 100 and enjoying it. But the problem with the 100 is it is eating away at the foundations of Test cricket. That's the problem with it. Nothing else.
There are actually quite a few English batters that are batting longer in the 100 now than in the Test match, aren't there? So
You have to invest in the Red Bull product. I'm sorry, I'm ranting, but I care, and it's good to care.
see you at Headingley.
Hope so.